Hook. He just wanted a date for one night, but his daughter wanted a mother forever. Channel promotion. Welcome to Kind Soul Stories, a place where emotional, heart-touching stories come alive. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel to never miss such beautiful tales. Scene 1, expanded 400 words in English. Welcome, friends. Today's story begins with a man who was powerful in the boardroom but lonely in his home. Michael Reed was a well-known CEO, admired for his sharp decisions and unshakable confidence. To the world, he seemed to have everything: wealth, respect, and success. But behind the closed doors of his grand mansion, he was just a single dad trying to raise his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. After losing his wife years ago, Lily was the light of his life. Every morning, she would run into his arms with messy hair and sleepy eyes, reminding him why he kept fighting against the emptiness in his heart. But no matter how much he loved her, Michael couldn't ignore the constant pressure from society and his business partners who whispered behind his back, "He doesn't even have a proper family. How will he host the annual party?" That party was only a week away. It wasn't just any gathering. It was the event where investors, shareholders, and journalists would watch his every move. Appearances mattered, and appearances demanded that he walk in with someone by his side, someone who looked like she belonged in his life. One late evening, after putting Lily to bed, Michael sat at his desk, scrolling through an elite dating agency's website. His hands hesitated on the keyboard. He wasn't looking for love. He wasn't ready for that. All he needed was a companion for one night, someone who could play the role of his girlfriend, smile for the cameras and then leave. Nothing more, nothing less. With a deep sigh, he filled out the request form. Girlfriend for social event, professional, elegant, no commitments. He clicked submit, never imagining how this one decision would change his entire life. The next morning, Lily sat across from him at breakfast, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Daddy," she said, swinging her little legs under the chair, "are you going to take someone special to the party this time?" Michael froze, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. He forced a smile. "Maybe, sweetheart." "Why do you ask?" Lily leaned forward, her voice filled with innocent hope. "Because maybe she could stay forever." Michael's heart clenched. He didn't know it yet, but his daughter's simple wish would open the door to something he thought he'd lost forever: love, family, and a second chance. Welcome, friends. The next chapter of Michael and Lily's story begins on the evening when the girlfriend finally arrived. The doorbell rang softly, echoing through the large but strangely quiet mansion. Michael adjusted his tie nervously, not because he cared about impressions for himself, but because this whole situation felt unusual. He had never ordered companionship before, and though he told himself it was strictly business, part of him felt guilty, as if he was letting Lily see a side of him he never wanted her to. When he opened the door, his eyes fell on Emma. She was graceful, wearing a simple yet elegant dress, her posture confident but her smile warm. She didn't look fake or rehearsed. She looked real. For a moment, Michael forgot his lines, forgot the whole act he had planned. "Mr. Reed?" she asked softly. "Yes," he cleared his throat, regaining his composure. "Thank you for coming." "Please, come in." Before Michael could say anything more, Lily appeared at the top of the staircase, her small hands gripping the railing. "Daddy, is she the one?" Lily's innocent voice carried across the room, and Emma's eyes flicked up in surprise. Michael quickly tried to smooth things over. "Lily, this is Emma. She's a friend who will be joining us at the party." But Lily didn't move. Instead, she studied Emma for a long moment, her eyes wide with the kind of curiosity only a child could have. Then with sudden boldness, Lily ran down the stairs and hugged Emma tightly around the waist. Emma froze for a second, caught off guard. Slowly, she bent down and hugged the little girl back, her expression softening in a way Michael couldn't ignore. He saw something in her eyes, something genuine, not part of the contract. "Hi, Lily," Emma said gently. "I'm very happy to meet you." "You're pretty," Lily replied bluntly, her face lighting up with an honest smile. "Daddy, can she sit with us for dinner?" Michael hesitated. This was supposed to be professional, simple, and detached. But when he looked at Lily's face, so hopeful, so full of innocent joy, he couldn't say no. "Of course," he said quietly. "Emma, would you join us?" That night, the dinner table, usually filled with silence, was full of laughter and warmth. For the first time in years, Michael realized what his home had been missing, and he wondered if Lily's wish might actually come true. Welcome, friends. The night of the grand annual party finally arrived. The Reed mansion, usually quiet and private, had been transformed into a glittering stage for wealth and power. Luxurious cars lined the driveway, and the chandeliers inside sparkled as the city's most influential investors and socialites stepped through the doors. Michael, dressed in a sharp black tuxedo, walked down the staircase with Emma by his side. For the first time in years, he didn't feel the weight of entering alone. He glanced at her briefly. She walked gracefully, her presence commanding attention without effort. He had hired her only to play a role, but tonight she felt like she truly belonged. Whispers filled the room as the guests turned to look at them. "That must be Michael's new girlfriend," someone whispered with curiosity. "Finally, he's moved on." Another guest nodded with approval. Michael pretended not to hear, but deep down, he was surprised at how natural it felt to have Emma standing with him. As they mingled, Emma handled conversations with ease. She wasn't only beautiful. She was intelligent, warm, and engaging. Investors who usually stayed distant were laughing at her witty remarks. For the first time, Michael didn't have to force a smile. It came naturally. But the most surprising moment came when Lily entered the hall in her little white dress, holding Emma's hand. Everyone turned to see the tiny girl clinging to Emma as if they had known each other forever. "Is that his daughter?" a guest murmured. "And she seems to adore the new woman already." Michael's heart swelled at the sight. Lily's face glowed with happiness. Her little voice announcing proudly to one of his business partners, "This is Emma. She's my daddy's special friend." The guests chuckled warmly, charmed by her innocence. For years, Michael had carried the image of being untouchable, a powerful man no one could approach easily. But tonight, with Emma and Lily beside him, that image shifted. People didn't just see a CEO anymore. They saw a father, a man who might be ready to open his heart again. Later, as the music played softly in the background, Michael found himself watching Emma dance with Lily. Their laughter echoed louder than the orchestra, filling a space in his heart he thought was gone forever. And in that moment, Michael realized the night was no longer about appearances or contracts. It was about family, something real, something he hadn't dared to dream of again. Welcome, friends. The party had ended, but its echoes lingered in Michael's heart. After the last guest departed, the mansion finally fell silent again. The staff cleaned quietly in the background, but Michael's eyes were fixed on Emma, who was helping Lily out of her tiny dress shoes near the staircase. "Did you have fun tonight, sweetheart?" Emma asked softly. Lily nodded, yawning, then hugged Emma tightly. "It was the best night ever. Because you were there." Her words melted the last trace of tension from Michael's shoulders. Emma looked up at him, almost apologetic. "She's such a sweet girl. I hope I didn't overstep by, well, letting her cling to me like that." Michael shook his head. "No, you were wonderful with her. More than I expected." His voice was quieter than usual, stripped of the commanding tone he carried in the office. For a brief moment, Emma saw not the CEO but the lonely father behind the title. Later that night, as Emma prepared to leave, Michael walked her to the door. He should have simply thanked her, reminded himself this was just a contract, and let her go. But the words caught in his throat. "You don't have to answer now," he said hesitantly, "but Lily likes you. She hasn't connected with anyone this quickly in years. Maybe you could come by again sometime, not for business, just for dinner." Emma's eyes softened. She wasn't expecting the vulnerability in his voice. "I'd like that," she replied gently. As the door closed behind her, Michael leaned against the wall, conflicted. This wasn't supposed to happen. Yet for the first time in years, hope flickered in his chest, hope for something more than just survival. Welcome, friends. Days turned into weeks, and Emma became more than just a passing presence in the Reed household. What started as a one-night arrangement had slowly grown into something far deeper. Every evening, Lily waited by the window, her face lighting up whenever Emma's car pulled into the driveway. Together, they cooked simple meals, played board games on the living room floor, and filled the mansion with the laughter it had been missing for years. Michael often stood back watching the two of them. He admired Emma's patience, the way she listened carefully to Lily's endless questions, and the warmth she carried into every corner of their home. A part of him wondered if fate had delivered exactly what his daughter had wished for. One Saturday afternoon, Michael took them both to the park. It was a simple outing, ice cream cones, swings, and a walk by the lake. But for Lily, it felt magical. She held Emma's hand tightly, glancing up with innocent eyes. "Emma, will you stay forever?" she asked again, her voice filled with unshakable hope. Michael froze, unsure of how Emma would respond. But Emma crouched down, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "I can't promise forever," she said gently. "But I can promise I'll always care about you." Michael's chest tightened at her words. It wasn't a commitment, yet it was real, sincere, and in that honesty he felt something shift, an opening in his guarded heart. As the sun set, they sat together on a bench overlooking the lake. Lily leaned against Emma's shoulder, dozing off from exhaustion. Michael glanced at Emma, their eyes meeting in a silence filled with unspoken emotions. "Emma," he murmured, "I don't know what this is turning into, but I know it's more than I planned, and I don't want to lose it." Emma looked at him, her lips parting as if to respond. But before she could, Lily stirred in her sleep and whispered, "Don't go, Emma." And in that fragile moment, Michael realized his daughter's innocent wish was no longer just hers. It had become his own. Friends, don't forget, like, share, comment, and subscribe to Kind Soul Stories for more heart-touching stories.